Welcome back to Passion About Music Education, a channel dedicated to you, the music educator. I'm Rachel Hardman, and today we're going to talk about how to inspire our students to not quit music. And of course there'll be students that will slip through the net, that will stop having lessons, that will have too much on their plate, be doing those 15 sports clubs and the music and the debate, and will eventually stop. This is normal and we mustn't take that personally, but how can we help our students to not quit music and to see music as a lifelong hobby, a lifelong potential career, and the fact that because it's ongoing, that they will have moments where they dip in terms of enthusiasm and feel a lack of progress. So my first tip is really about explaining the challenges of a specific instrument. So whether you're teaching general classroom music or whether you're teaching band, choir or your private studio, there are certain challenges with each instrument. For instance, learning the flute, probably the hardest two things to do as a beginner is one, to make a consistent sound, to really learn how to blow across the lip plate and make a good sound. And the second is how to play D, which I think difficult D, as I kind of name it with my students, because it's just a weird finger and you're having to lift your first finger up, you take your pinky off, which you've used on everything else to balance, and it's quite a tricky note to play compared to the fingerings of every other note. And the problem with D is it's not the same on each octave, whereas an E on the flute is the same the first two octaves. So there's always a challenge with your instrument. You will know what that is, whether it's singing or whether it's an instrument, because you've overcome those challenges. So it's really important for us to normalise those challenges for our students. I always joke with my beginner flute players, those are the two challenges you're going to have. Once you've overcome them, you'll be flying, but they are normal. We've all been there. All my students have the same problem. And actually, because you've normalised it, they don't get stressed. And because they don't get stressed, your students, when they come across the D or when they're trying to, struggling to keep a consistent sound on the flute, they don't get stressed because they know it's normal. And because they know it's normal, they actually make more progress because they're not getting stressed. So it's really important that you normalise the challenges that they're having, whether it's as a beginner or whether they're a more advanced performer. Tip number 2 to help your students maintain progress and to keep feeling success is to actually celebrate success. Celebrate the small wins. Celebrate in your lesson what they have achieved. Get students to reflect on, what did you do well today? What have you progressed? If you're going to name 3 things that you've understood or developed or improved, what are they? Because although it might not be a massive improvement, it is improvement, it is progress, and those consistent, regular action will make that progress. And we know that ourselves as musicians, as educators. So we need to ensure that our students see that, those small wins. So if they've been able to play, a particular difficult passage with good technique, get them to identify it. Even if you might need to guide them, but certainly you identify it. Or if they played dynamically well, or if they played their scales well, whatever it is, whatever small win that they made in that lesson, make sure that they identify that as they go out of the room, so that they go away feeling some sense of accomplishment. It's really important. Tip number 3 is to teach your students how to practice. I don't know about you, but when I was at school, nobody really taught me to practice. They never taught me how to manage my practice time. All that I ever got was you should be practicing 30 minutes a day, every day. And sometimes I'd do 20 minutes and go, well, I've played my pieces and now I'm making loads of mistakes and I'm just getting frustrated. And nobody really talked about how to break the music into sections, why the technique was important, and they didn't really put it together for me. I wasn't making the fast progress that really I should have for the time that I was dedicating to music. So really try and help your students understand how to practice, what they need to practice, and how to make effective use of their practice time. So even if they only practice twice in a week, those half-an-hour sessions or 20 minutes or however long they spend is productive practice, that they've moved the goalpost in their playing and their understanding of music, technique, literacy, etc. All right, tip number 4, I think, is us being kind as human beings, as teachers, to understand the challenges, particularly for our teenage students that they're going through within school and their own lives. However much we want them to practice every day, and however much we want them to put music at the top of their agenda, for most of our students that isn't going to be the case, because they are pulled from pillar to post in so many different ways, whether it's from their classwork, homework, their commitment to extracurricular, their commitment to family life, the fact that they might have, you know, two working parents who aren't at home and they never get home into their own house, a child, until they're, you know, 7 o'clock at night. So really getting good practice in there with having dinner, having a bath, all the other normal everyday challenges that we all have, and we know that because we do the same, we have the same conversations as adults. So it is showing kindness, and there are certain points within the school year where students are overwhelmed, and it's usually about 2 weeks before the reports are due, because what happens is every subject across the school decides that they need to test their students to get some data for grades, and so there'll be that week where every child will come into your room stressed, fed up and overwhelmed because they haven't done their practice, and they'll come in straight away and tell you, I haven't been able to practice, I'm really, really sorry. I've had all these tests and I've had to revise for maths and science and my French test or whatever that they're doing. And that moment is where you show compassion and understanding, because you've been there, you know that, you've done that as a student, you've done that as a teacher. So you have to show compassion and understand and say, I totally understand, this week has been a challenge. Maybe you can find some time to practice just to have a release from it, for mindfulness, or whether you just get to practice a little bit more next week when your timetable is a little bit easier. By showing kindness and understanding and normalising life, your student will go back to practicing, because they won't want to let you down, they won't want to let themselves down, and that's really important, that we give them that kindness and compassion and understanding on their difficult weeks when they need us to understand. And my last tip is to really encourage your students to study subjects that they love, especially if they're thinking about doing GCSEs or APs and IB. And what often happens is they want to do what their parents tell them to do, what their friends are doing, or what society is kind of implying. I mean, there was a whole wealth of students wanting to take business studies because they all believe that they need to do that. And please don't think I'm anti-business, because I'm really not. But they also should be doing subjects that they actually like, not what just their parents are telling them to do. And that's a hard challenge, because of course you don't really want to be getting into family dynamics. But if they're studying a subject that makes them happy, then they are going to be more engaged in it. They're going to want to do the work, they're going to want to do the extra learning. And I think the more we can give them that information so that they make choices and support their choices, even if they don't in the end pick GCSE music or A-level music, it's ensuring that the children still find a way to love music, so that they don't quit, and that they will see it as something that they can do beyond school, beyond university, because music is a lifelong hobby. So I hope this video has given you a few ideas in how you can help your students not quit music, how they can keep playing and get beyond that 1-2 years of practicing and still making progress. What I'd really love to know is, what is your favourite tip to encourage students to keep with studying music and to keep working through those challenging times? If you leave them in the comments below, that would be great to help our community, and I look forward to seeing you again here soon on Passionate About Music Education. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and obviously click on the notifications so you know when new videos are coming up. See you again soon. I'm Rachel Hardman.